Thank you. So we have started the recording. Hopefully everyone is okay with the recording is to support meeting minutes taking and for getting back to the record if there are any questions that needs further clarification in the future. All right. So we have a few agenda items on the screen here that we will have to peruse through today. Unfortunately, we probably won't be able to approve the meeting minutes of last December meeting, given that I came back from my annual leave on Monday, and I saw George has sent me a link to the meeting minutes, which is here, which I haven't actioned on and sent out to the broader group for pre-review and for approval at this meeting. So what I will do is, I think I will propose that we defer approval of the meeting minutes of last year, which was the December the 18th meeting, to the next meeting, which will be on the 29th of January for approval. So hopefully that's okay with everyone. And we have a few agenda items here for discussions today. Anyone has any special requests for the agenda item to be changed in terms of priority or any revisions or additions to the agenda items? All right, now hearing none, then I would like to progress in the second agenda item. Do we have Ruben here?
I don't think Ruben's online. No, he's not in the meeting.
Right, yeah, that's there is a FHIR Work Group HL7 AU. I don't assume that that's Ruben. That might be Brett. Is that correct?
On that particular update, it was Ruben, in that Ruben had been tracking where the IG publisher tooling was at, on whether they had incorporated the ability to like turn on the FCP logo. And I guess that's what he was giving us the update on.
Mm-hmm.
But I've just had a look since Ruben's not online, and it looks like Lloyd has made that update. So that
Right.
should be working. I think Brett.
Okay.
I'll see where Brett is as well. Because I know. Oh no, there you are.
Yeah, I'm only testing it right now.
I thought that you might be HL7 AU FHIR Work Group that identification. I thought it might be you.
Yeah, I believe it's not working, but we can confirm the actual mechanism is working or not.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
so
I haven't got an answer. I don't think the change is working at this point.
So it isn't working. So we will defer
Maybe,
this
maybe
item
not.
for the next meeting. Would that be okay?
I think we'll have to.
Yep. All right. So item number 1 and item number 2, bullet point number 1 will be deferred for the next meeting in a fortnight. By the way, just in terms of a point of interest, next meeting in a fortnight falls within the HL7 International Work Group meeting, which is a virtual meeting. Are there any one of us who will be attending the meeting? I've signed up to attend the meeting, so I will be an apology for that one. Okay, hearing none, then I will come to the next meeting sort of a bit later on. Okay, so the second bullet point TBD, Brett, do you have any additional updates?
I do.
Okay,
No, sorry, no more additional updates.
okay. All
Yeah.
right, so no more additional updates. So item number 2, bullet number 2 of agenda item 2 is dealt with the first bullet point defer for the next meeting. Okay, number 3, approval for AU base 4.2.2 publications and QA report. Who will be reporting on that?
Yeah, so we'd like to do a QA review. I'm actually waiting for a build to finish, which might take 10 minutes. I don't know.
I can go for the next item
do you
if you want. We can swap
that
that
would be
around.
wonderful. If we
All
could
right.
do
Okay.
that, because it was
All
just the
right,
last
so
change
while we
I
are
have to
waiting
wait
for
for.
Brett to sort out the QA report for the AU-based publication, let's jump ahead to bullet number 4, AU Core AFMM2 endorsement. So Danielle, how would you like to run this? Do you want me to?
Yeah, just click on that. That'd be
Okay.
great. So this is the last of the set. We've done 3 of these in this FHIR Work Group before, where the testing has occurred on a set of AU Core artifacts and has resulted in kind of agreeing in the AU Core Technical Design Group that we can mark these as meeting the AFMM2 criteria. And we still had a last set of a few of the profiles that didn't yet meet the at least 80% of core data elements from 3 independently developed systems prior to the last Connectathon. So that testing was successfully done at the Connectathon and then endorsed by the AU Core Technical Design Group. So that's all approved and now come to us to, as the FHIR Work Group, endorse that that process has been followed, and we are happy for that decision to stand. I don't think there's anything more interesting to say about this. It's just those last set of content. Did anyone want me to go into more detail, or are we happy with that level?
Yeah, do you need me to scroll to any particular content for highlighting, or are you okay for me to just show it here?
I mean, I think it's kind of boring at this stage, but then again, I'm both in the AU Core Group and was at the Connectathon and was here. So it's all very, I think, the 4th or 5th time I've looked at this content. We can have let me just get a link.
What I will do is I will put this link in the chat just in case anyone who has any interest to peruse on their own. Let me know, Danielle, if there is any particular area of this conference, this JIRA page that you want me to click on or focus on.
I mean, no, it says it all there. This content's been assessed and endorsed by the technical design group as meeting that material, and that's now come to the FHIR Work Group to endorse that decision. We have the link to the vote, the electronic vote. I mean, you can click on that was done from the AU Core TDG, which documents that content and what the results were.
All right, so in that case, then coming back to the agenda item number 4, you want to put a motion forward to vote to approve that? Yep.
I'll just double check. Does anyone want any more details? I know a bunch of the people on the line have seen this before several times, and this is the final set of items for the AU Core FHIR IG, having gone through those. Does anyone want me to go into any more detail, or are we happy for me to just move to a motion here to endorse that decision from the AU Core TDG?
we can do it either way. We can have the discussion now, or we can have a motion and a second on the table, and then we can open up for conversation. I don't mind one way or the other. Both fits the HL7 procedural requirements. So I'm happy for us to open it up for any questions or discussions before you put a motion on the table, Daniel.
Well, no one seemed interested when I did open that, so and ask
Okay.
for comment. So I'll just move a motion
Right.
that we endorse that FHIR. Oh God, what's the number? It's a bit tiny for me on my screen. That we endorse that decision, that FHIR 48999. Would anybody like to second that
I'll
for me?
second, Danielle. Sorry, it's Marika.
Thanks,
All
Marika.
right, we have Danielle made a motion, made the motion, and then America second that motion. All right. Any further discussions or any further questions on the motion? Okay. If not, then let's call to the vote.
Did you want me to
Danielle,
launch the
yes,
poll?
if you can, please.
right.
That would be great. All right, so you can see on the screen, there are three options, of affirmative, negative, and abstain. I am chairing, so therefore I don't have a vote. So for all of you other than me, you are free to vote. And if anyone who can't vote, we will count them after the electronic vote is being finalized. All right, we will close the vote in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we can close the vote now. So what numbers do we have?
So we have 9 affirmative,
Yep.
0 negative, and 0 abstain.
Yep. So the 9 doesn't include you and
It does.
Brett, or it does include you and Brett. Okay, all good.
It doesn't include Brett, sorry. So
Oh,
that
yeah.
would be
Oh, it
10
doesn't.
affirmative.
Plus one,
So
2.
we have 10 affirmative and 0 negative, 0 abstain. So the motion is passed. All right. Brett, are you ready, or we want to move to item number 5?
I don't want to be tired. I'm actually just waiting for a build. I mean, we might get started. And I expect the build to finish halfway through.
Okay.
But I can talk to
All right.
talk to some of the gaps.
Okay, let's look at item number 5, which is change requests. 48913. So I will put it up in a new page. So that's the request publications of code system value set that refer to updated PBS and also MBS item numbers.
So I don't mind speaking to it. There were some action items that came out of the last meeting. So Richard had 2 of them to investigate the mobile gateway for MBS and PBS, but he's not on the call today, so we probably can't speak to that. I put a survey, so a series of poll questions on Zulip last week on the 8th and have not got any responses as yet. I'm just wondering, is there someone, would someone from the FHIR working group like officially be able to email that out with a request for action? To answer the poll.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so Brett,
is-
your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. Like as well, I mean, the work group list is open as well, so you can happily post directly onto the FHIR Work Group list. That'll reach all the FHIR Work Group people. But do you want to go broader, yeah?
I think just anyone who is implementing FHIR in Australia, probably broader, yeah.
All right. Yeah, we can do something.
Thank you, Brett.
All right, so
yeah.
I mean, I think we can, I guess, so practically in terms of how this can be achieved, obviously HL7 AU Work Group has its mailing list. But if you want to go wider, that would be, well, that's a good question.
I mean, HL7 would probably be wide enough because it would encompass several of the working groups. I think it just needs to be possibly wider than just this working group.
Yeah, I think that from a procedural perspective, let's try the HL7 AU mailing list as a starter and see where we land, and then we can then decide whether or not we need further broader broadcasting.
So
Yeah.
just to actually get this done, let's just confirm then, because I think in terms of the FHIR Work Group, we can agree to use our mailing list. We can agree and go, yeah, that's great, and therefore we can email it out. To use HL7AUs to go to all HL7AU members, which won't necessarily go to the working groups because it would go to all the HL7AU members. I think that would require board approval. Is that right, Brett?
I think we could probably get that done quickly, but I think too the problem with the members list is that it's generally reaching organizational people, not standards dev people.
Right.
So it's not the best channel in some ways either. But certainly broadening out to the other work groups is easily done.
Yeah, so I can bring that up
Yep.
with the AU Core coaches. I mean, I think that's fine, but I'm only one of them. So I'll double check that with them on Monday. And if they don't see a problem with that, then we can use the AU Core one. And we can, I guess, ask the e-requesting coaches if they're comfortable with that. And then we can use the e-requesting mailing list as well.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds good. So shall we then make that request during the meetings or by email to the co-chairs?
Let's do by email to the co-chairs. So let's put an action on me to ask the AU Core ones, because I got a meeting with them on Monday. So I could just confirm that then.
All right.
And then let's put an action on someone to email the e-requesting coaches.
Yeah.
Okay, Marika, you want to do that?
I don't mind emailing the e-requesting co-chairs.
Sounds good. All right. So do we still need an action item on the HL7 AU mailing list?
Probably not if we're going through this other path and this is more appropriate.
Okay. All right. So we have two action items now. One action item is for Danielle to email the AU Core TDG. Is that right, Danielle?
Yeah, I'll check with the co-chairs to see. I mean, I think this fits within the rules of what you should use for content, because PBS is in AU Core, for example. So I don't think we need to, I think that can just be done, but I'll confirm with the co-chairs on Monday that they agree and they think that's just totally within the remit. And then if they don't have any concerns, I'll get back to you, Marika, and we can go ahead. And if we do have concerns, well, I'll come back to you anyway, obviously, and we could talk about it.
Okay.
Sounds good, Danielle.
And then Marika will email the e-requesting co-chairs on that action item as well. All right, oh, good. So actions are being set. And we'll wait for Richard to come back to us, given that he's not on the call today. So we'll wait for him to come back. All right, so that action item closed. So we don't have anything else to go on to except the next meeting. Brett, are you
I'm good now. My build is finished, so
your build is finished. So
I'm happy to go ahead with that now.
So you want me to stop sharing and you want to share?
I'll just share my screen.
Yep.
Get that going.
Yeah, because just for context, AU Base is basically set to be published today. The whole bunch of work's been done by a lot of people behind the scenes, massively Brett, and a few other people like Dushi and Jamie, and also Ruben, and just Graham and a whole bunch of others as well, where with all the ballot changes are in now. And they've all been checked. And so this is like final publication and going through the current state of the QA.html so we can confirm any existing errors or warnings that haven't already been accepted by this group, to make sure that we know what they are and we've accepted them so that we can go ahead and publish.
And thank you so very much for all of you who have put in all the hard work. And I know that Ducey in particularly has put in a whole lot of work in that. So thank you to all.
Awesome. Cool. And thanks, Daniel. The yeah, so yeah, we'll go through, like, this is the QA report. So just for those not in looking at these every day, the QA report is something that's generated when a FHIR IG is built. It goes through a bunch of checks to show any issues with content in the IG. It applies a bunch of validation and also sort of style guides and terminology rules and things like that. So it's a really great tool to help improve the quality of the QA of the IG. And the main thing for us to do is really just assess any issues that are remaining. We have to kind of understand what they mean and have a rationale as to why they are allowed to exist as errors or warnings. And so basically this is the review that lets us go through that to make sure there's nothing that's unexpected. And and basically it's to make sure we understand all the content is coming through in a as correct manner as it can in the publication. So yeah, so it's a bit of a formality, but it's also one of the tick boxes we have to do to publish the spec. So it's important that we do this. So overall, we're getting a build report. So I might probably the key things to look at are the errors. So the errors are things that the IG publisher considers faults in the IG, and we have to explain as to why they exist at all. But hopefully we can do that relatively easily. So these red marks are showing the errors. So we've got we've really got just two types of error. We do have, and this one is one that's a little unusual. So we have an example. It's throwing an error on one of the codings in the example. This is an Onto server fault. So the terminology is going out to get checked for this example. So I'll just get the example up. I'll probably just go in detail on the errors, but the rest are easier. So basically the qualification code in here. Okay. Yeah, so there's a qualification code, and I believe it's the APRA General Medical Practitioner code. There's a reported Onto server fault where it's not processing that correctly in terms of being able to validate that terminology. Looking at the example, we are pretty sure it's valid, and we've checked that makes sense. So yeah, so we've reported that as an Onto server a fault, and so that's being followed up as an issue on their side. But that's our explanation as to why we're getting this fault. Yeah. So that's the first one. Here's another one. Okay, so this one is one that's gone around for quite a while. So that it's showing that this particular code is a PBS code that's included in one of our medication administration examples. It's coming up as an unknown code, and we can totally expect that because there is no published PBS terminology content anywhere in FHIR format. So since that doesn't exist as a code to check, it's coming up as a unknown code. So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, and I just invite anyone that has questions or comments on this stuff, please do pipe in and we'll talk to it. But I think that's noted with a comment there that we don't expect this content to exist. So we're expecting this error. And I believe the last error is similar to the first one. And yeah, so this is in fact exactly the same code. Yeah, we've reported this as a fault with this particular, it's actually this particular code in this content. So I think we're following up on that, but it's yeah, this is the same error there. So I think from an errors perspective, we're pretty clean. That's all. We do have a bunch of other suppressed content. You just go through.
If you click on the suppressed,
Yeah,
the wording like suppressed, it'll go to it. So scroll up slightly, see.
There it is. I was trying
Yeah.
to find it. Cool. So oh, these are actually showing backwards. That's not very helpful. Start at the bottom. Yeah, so
Actually, you wanted to start at the top. We don't go through information. Or I mean you can, sorry.
no, that's all right. No, they're in random order. I might get my
Okay.
list up. Looks like they come out in the order they're yeah, I might just get
Looks
my
like the right order to me, because that's saying something about community submissions being at the top, which I think is that's what you'd want at the top.
oh, that's okay. It doesn't matter much. Yeah, so
Okay.
we'll just go through so these are just grouped by different types of warnings that we're getting. So yeah, just to address, why these things exist. There's a whole bunch of profiles that don't have examples. So this is one of the quality checks that gets done. So we have noted this, that there's some things that don't have examples. We do whilst we say there's no example, there are a number of these are data type profiles that do have examples throughout other areas of the spec, but they don't have a direct example. So this is pretty much, we know the state of most of these, and and basically we probably like to say, if anyone wants to submit examples, that'd be welcome, but we kind of know that this is the case, and that's I think if people have real need for examples, they can raise issues and raise PRs with content as well, would be appreciated. So expected additional binding. Okay, so we do in our bindings to terminology, we do actually have some bindings to experimental and draft terminology content. So just to go through these ones, these are all the pathology SPIA terminology set. So that's a value set that's being worked on as part of e-requesting, but it's an existing terminology set. So that's known as a experimental set for that work. We have that just as a preferred additional binding for the context of pathology. So we're getting those on some examples with that.
So for those, the expectation is that the value sets will evolve to become non-experimental.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so we expect it to be the same reference to that set, but the actual value set will be developed further. That's
These
one
are
of
the same
that's an
ones too.
NCTS. Yeah,
I think
yeah,
so. This is
yeah.
At the moment we're representing things that we've already approved in the past in the FHIR Work Group, because none of this stuff has changed. All of these terminology, when we said let's put them in, have had this status.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, true. At the start, this is true. Nothing's really changed. So going
just
on,
looking at those examples, actually, example.acme.com.au.
Yeah.
Should that be something or rather, example.com rather than example.acme.com.au? Or is that not the sort of little fussiness that we worry about?
No, we probably should worry about that. I welcome a ticket. Yeah, no, that's actually it's probably one of the policy things. We probably should avoid that if we can. But yeah. So noted. But yeah, if you want to raise a ticket, Richard, I think that would be fair because I think that we do have a kind of style guide that we would have some specific things we would use.
Yeah, I mean, somebody could in fact
Yeah.
register acme.com.au as
Yeah,
a website.
theory.
It's not a reserved website name.
No, exactly. True. But explainable.
All right,
As an error.
anything
But,
else to go through, Brett?
Yeah, I'm just going to roll down until I get to the informative kinds of things.
Okay.
So the yeah, so
Can
this
you
is
though, I think
yeah,
probably call out for people where there are new things, because there are a few things
yeah.
that we haven't seen before, and almost all of this is things that are already
Yeah,
approved
these
from the
are
FHIR
definitely
Work Group,
things we've seen
but it's
before.
just worth,
Okay,
yeah, where are the
maybe
ones
this
that are yes?
yeah, so yeah, this best practice advice. So there's been some stuff out of the IG publisher to warn people. It's applying some kind of best practice content rules, which are being there. And one of those is observations should have a performer included. We don't say anything about that in AE base, and we didn't want to add that in the example. So we have examples that are getting warnings on that because we don't have performers included in that content.
Just add a little
So
bit more
yeah,
information to that this is something that is quite new in FHIR. So IG Publisher, they're not just making it up. There's like a new section now in FHIR, and I've just dropped the link in, that is starting to be built out as part of the FHIR standard that's listing best practices. So that's kind of, I think, where this stuff is coming from. So we'll see this list of warnings, I think, continue to expand over time as that list of best practices continues to be worked on by the community. I think it's just really it's interesting, and it's like a new feature in IG Publisher.
yeah, and it's
Which
one
is
of those
very
things
cool.
too. Yeah, it is a kind of good idea, but it's also too, I guess, you're starting to lean into what is your use case for this as well, because yeah, they may or may not be relevant to you. So I think it's it's helpful, but we'll have to assess what comes through that process and see if it makes sense for what we're
Yeah.
trying to do. AU base is a bit different too because it doesn't have a specific use case, so we don't have quite the same. Yeah.
So that warning can't be coming because of the link that Danielle posted, because that's got nothing there that affects observation.
I don't know. Yeah. Not sure about that. Yeah,
So
I
this
think
might be the strategy, but it's not
Yeah.
actually the
Noise.
thing that's being used.
Interesting. Anyway, yeah. So that, I think we may see more of this kind of content coming through as well. So that's just a note probably. Next one, fire path resolution. So this is a little bit interesting. We're getting a set of errors on examples around, especially sex and gender, where with some of the variants that we've included to make sure terminology used is appropriate for the sex and gender entries. So this appears, and we think this is the case, we think this is a reported fault with so when validations are done by the IG publisher, there is the opportunity for the terminology checks to be devolved out to a secondary server. So it's essentially called the authoritative server. So a particular terminology has an authoritative server, and they can be the checks on that terminology are done with that server. So we have all like the NCTS content and other useful Australian concepts loaded in. There's a authoritative server gets used in the IG publisher process. So, and not just the international terminology server, but we also have an Australianized terminology server. That is where there's a set of these a set of these. So basically, that means we can validate examples in our IG as it builds. So it does do that throughout the IG. However, when the use of the terminology is in a FHIR path expression, which is what is used to create the constraint statements in the specification, if we try and resolve terminology in those constraint statements, it's not applying the authority server referencing. So it means that we are unable to, the IG publisher is unable to validate these terms through the FHIR path expression. So this is essentially a set of those. So sex and gender. We also have one with Australian states and territories in variant as well. So it's so these are ones that we in theory, if there was work being able to be resolved through the FHIR path usage, they would all pass. So I think this is essentially an issue for IG Publisher to have the FHIR path validation work the same as the regular validation process.
Brett, has that been reported?
I am unsure if there is a specific issue on that. But yeah, I think we definitely have identified it, but I have to check on the status. So maybe put an action against me to check that would be good. So I'll just check if that's a already existing logged issue, or I think it possibly was, but I have to check that for sure. But that's something to follow up. Cool. So that's a complicated one. Were there any questions on that one?
All right. Anything else that we need to attend to before we?
I have a question on that one.
Yeah.
If the validator is not going to be upgraded to manage that in the next 12 months, is there something else we should do, or should we just charge on ahead with this known limitation of what the validator can do?
Yeah, that's probably some good questions, because it's yeah, we've gone.
Can I just address that? Because there's a
Yeah.
difference between IG Publisher when building a final IG is applying its own rules versus is the artifact actually correct and it's being tested. We have tested these things, so we've confirmed that the FHIR path in a non-IG Publisher pipeline is actually doing what it's doing when you validate a resource against the profile. So we know it works. This is just a publication tool chain.
Okay, so this problem doesn't show up if you are validating using other tools. It only shows up if you're using it in the publisher.
I'm not
good.
Sure I'm not sure that's true.
No, I am certain it's true. We tested this in the AU Core testing for.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, because
for gender identity. So these things,
for sure.
I don't think we've tested all of these, but the equivalent issue that has must support in AU Core, we have tested and confirmed it's actually working because we inherit these constraints in AU Core.
Yeah, I get you, Danielle. Because basically, if your terminology server holds these terminologies, it'll work. So so I think that's a good point. So it is implementable still without warnings. Yeah. Cool.
Okay, moving along. Anything else?
Yeah, I'm going to keep going.
Yep.
So we talked about the PBS terminology error that was already there. There's an associated set of warnings that go with that as well, similarly. So that's notable. Again, there's a set of terminology content that is part of the specification but doesn't have actual content published. So MIMS is one of those. So we have a set of errors coming from MIMS coding there, and PBS as well. So PBS and MIMS are essentially placeholder code systems that have a URL but don't have content. So they are showing up as warnings as well because they can't validate the codes. And I believe, and this is probably one, that came through ballot ballot resolution. So this one is part of the validation framework again. So we had a ballot issued to change the, which was resolved to change the profile asserted against our terminology content. So this was actually moving, this is an NCTS published profile on the code system and value set content. So this was different than we used to use a different profile which had different constraints on the content. So this is one aligned with the NCTS content. However, this is not something that the FHIR IG publisher is validating and is unable to validate it at the moment. So I know this is being followed up through as potentially a change in IG publisher to be able to apply these. So that at the moment there's all of the value set and code system profiles apply this assertion, and they're all getting a warning that that they can't be checked because it's not something that's available to the IG publisher to be able to check the content. So whilst it's coming through as warnings, it's basically something that again, this has been checked offline to make sure that they are complying to these profiles, but it's not something the IG publisher can do. So I think that's that has been followed up, I think, and we're looking at probably changes in IG publisher to support those terminology profile requirements.
I doubt Graham's going to change IG publisher, but it is. Discussions are ongoing about does NCTS publish an NPM package, all that kind of thing.
Yeah,
but it's just there's a warning there
ways.
saying there are profiles, I can't resolve them, and that's absolutely true.
Yeah, and I think Danielle's alluded to the answer that's possible, which is if these were published in their own package, we could just refer to it and they would get included in the IG as a dependency, and we would be able to test against them. Cool. What else have I got? I've just got a couple, one more. So there's one example on endpoint. There's an endpoint example, and that's actually using a terminology that's published in the provider directory spec. So we don't expect, that's not a dependency that we've got in here. So it is just an example demonstrating some other content in the example. So I think that's explainable as well. The rest I have, there is a set of informative stuff. So this is really, again, there's a set of terminology kind of status things, just general information about deprecations that we've done. And these are really, we don't really need to assess these, but it's definitely things that, are just there as information. So I guess,
can I ask point of order?
Questions? Yeah.
Do we, because we should, accept this content. Are we accepting the diff as in that those things that haven't previously been accepted, or should we as a point of order just go, let's accept this set of warnings and errors?
I think it's easy to accept the whole thing, and and just say that this is it's sufficient for the publication to go ahead. I think our confidence level is high that we understand all of these. So I think it's there's nothing here that we think is an actual fault with the content. So so I think we probably like to move ahead and accept that.
So next steps are is someone going to make a motion about accepting the AU-based artifact for publication? Correct?
I would like to make a motion that we accept this QA for this release.
Okay, so back to agenda item number 3. So Brett, make a motion on the AU base 4.2.2 publication, to accept the QA report and progress to publication. Is that your motion?
Sorry.
Correct.
When you say accept the QA report, I guess it means we accept the QA report as being tolerable for publication, not we accept it as being an accurate representation of the problems.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, right there.
Well, we shouldn't publish if there are any warnings and errors that aren't accepted by the work group. So what we're doing is accepting that these warnings and errors are acceptable because we've gone through and gone, well, this is a server issue, this is this issue, this is that issue, and we are happy for this to proceed.
Right.
Good, thank you.
That's what I mean by accepting the QA report, that we accept the QA report as to, if you want clarification, Richard, that there is no showstoppers for progressing the AU base 4.2.2 towards publication.
Thank you.
All right, anyone who wants to second that motion?
I'll second it, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. All right, any further discussions or questions on the QA report and also the motion? All right, hearing none, then let's launch a vote. Daniel, if you can, please.
Hang on, seconding. I don't.
Richard.
Did somebody else second? Richard second.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Let me. And I've lost the poll button. Apologies. Ah, there it is. Relaunch. Okay, everyone should see that now.
Yep. So we have 14 in the participation list, less me, so there'll be 13 who are eligible to vote.
So 11 people have voted so far.
Right, okay, let's count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we can finalize the vote.
All right, I'll end that poll. I'll share the results. So including what Brett popped into the chat and myself, that is 11 affirmative, 0 negative, and 1 abstain.
All right, cool. So the motion is carried. All right. So thank you very much for every one of you who have done so much and such a wonderful piece of work. All right, now, Richard, you show up a good time. We were talking about action number 5, change request on the PBS and MBS value set and the URLs. You had an action item from the last meeting. Do you have updates for us?
No, I do not have updates from it.
Okay.
I'm an apology on that.
All right, so we'll defer that update until next meeting. So there are 2 action items arising out of that, including an action item on you. There will be 3 altogether. So Daniel to send a request to the AU Core TDG co-chairs, and Marika to send an email to the e-request co-chairs on this issue, and Richard to report back on the PBS and MBS URLs at the next meeting. So with that, I think we have concluded all our agenda items. Then the final item will be on the
Yeah, we've got Brett's hand up.
Could I just I just
sorry,
wanted to raise
didn't see your hand up
other
until now.
Brett.
Yep.
There was something notable that I should have mentioned at the top. We have gone through a discussion around the around the versioning of this release of AU Base.
Okay.
Yeah, so we wanted to just mainly inform people the way it has panned out. So as part of the FCP process, there is a recommended versioning system. It's SemVer, which is kind of normal software versioning. We have been operating with the AU base spec in a slightly strange way of versioning with our major version number. So to try and align with FCP processes and methodologies, we have made an editorial decision to, so rather than publishing as 4.2.2, we would actually are going to publish as 5.0.0, and we'll be using our major version marker as a breaking change major release signifier. So this is really kind of more just to make the versioning similar now to other specs, because AU Core is definitely going to do this as well, and e-requesting, and try and keep our versioning working the same way for all the specs. So it is really, in some ways, it's a cosmetic change, but the intent is that we'll publish this as 5.0.0, and we'll be running that as a as a sequence. So if there's any breaking changes for the next version, it'll be a 6.x release. So that's the intent at the moment. So if there's amendments that are non-breaking, we'll continue in the 5.x sequence, and if there's breaking changes, we'll go to 6.x. So we're essentially detaching from the FHIR for upfront versioning that we had before. So this is really just a I think we just basically have to do this, and so it's been discussed with both Ruben and Graham as in their kind of AFCC and international FHIR community leadership roles, and so I think we're just kind of going along with that. So it's really just an information piece on that.
Looking ahead, so the major version number is now independent of the FHIR of the FHIR version that it's based upon. So at some stage we can look forward to having stuff based on 4 and stuff based on FHIR 6.
Yeah.
So that suggests
there's another bridge. Yeah.
So that suggests that what it's based upon should be part of the identifying string. So this will be version 5 of AU based on R4.
Yeah, something.
And eventually there'll be an AU based on R6, and that will come out initially as version 1.
Yeah, we certainly had that discussion as well, and there is, I think we'll have to cross that bridge, because it's a bit unclear as to what an R6 spec would be. So whether we just kind of transfer into R6, but I think the thing will be we expect R4 will need maintenance into the future for some time, because there's definitely going to be systems. So I think we'll have to do it.
I can see how we can postpone this until we actually start doing an R6, but it's not something to solve today.
Cool.
Yeah, I think the versioning, and I've not seen anyone do this yet. So for a whole bunch of our stuff to move, we're also going to need to look at what international is doing, and whether or not we're maintaining 2 versions of anything, or if there's only ever 1 version of something. I think it's going to be a whole strategy piece where we need to tease that out, and where and how, if we are maintaining concurrent I guess expressions of a single standard like AU base across multiple FHIR versions, what that would look like from even like an NPM package or IDs or all that kind of thing. So I absolutely agree that that's it's a complex discussion that when we do consider the next version of FHIR, where I think we're going to have to do a project on it, to be honest, an actual project to go, how do we do this, and have that discussion also with the related HL7AU projects too. And by that, I mean those who are affected by BASE, which is kind of all of them.
Yeah.
So Brett, when the version 5 of the AU base is published, would there be clear message on the landing page to say that there is this is not to be confused with the FHIR release 5? Otherwise, people might cause jump to conclusion and cause confusion.
Yeah, I think so.
I will
we definitely
also
note
that there's only been a couple of the versions of AU base that have actually matched the FHIR one. Like we started as version 1, and that was on Stu 3. So it's not been a consistent, well-established pattern. I think we kind of stumbled on the fact that it was 4, and our next version would naturally be 4, and we went, oh ho, we could have a theme running here.
Yeah, and that was before there was an FCP, so it's yeah. So
anyway, I think that's necessary to avoid confusion. Otherwise, people when they look at that, is that are we now looking at FHIR release 5 or
I think there's we're definitely going to be doing some broad correspondence, but we'll also do some specific FHIR, a specific work group correspondence as well, to the committees, because to explain where that's gone. And just for interest, I just dropped in the link. There is a branch of R5 which is we've been prepping the release. So that is something. You probably have a short window if you find a problem, because we'll probably be looking to get our publication kind of checkboxes all ticked off, and we'll probably be moving through to actually publishing based on our QA approval.
All right. Okay. Can we now conclude item number 3, which is the AU-based propagation?
Good for me. Thank you.
All right, cool. Then the final item is the next meeting plan. As I said earlier, the next meeting in the 2 weeks' time, which falls on the HL7 International Work Group meeting. I'll be working night shift that week, so I am not likely going to be able to attend the January 29th meeting. So that's sort of a preemptive apology from my part. And anything else, Brett and Daniel, on the upcoming meetings?
I did want to go through a few things. Let me just go back to the page. I had some notes for me on the page. Let me just have a look. Okay. So next meeting will be ideally AU Core doing its, I guess, endorsement of its decision making around the QA.html, because we're going just through confirmation process now in AU Core that like all the ballot issues are actually done, and just double checking the QA.html. So that'll come through the AU Core TDG ideally in its next meeting. And so the following week would be at the FHIR Work Group, where, we come back to this group and say, hey, we've gone through all of this process, we've okayed it, and just have that overall kind of oversight that process is being followed by AU Core before it gets published. So that's the plan. We're working towards that. Other things for next meeting include, I think we need to talk through what we would want to do as the FHIR Work Group in the March kind of work group meeting connectathon period. So there's March 18th is a symposium work group meeting day, and then 18th, 19th is the connectathon day. This is all in Sydney, and so I think like those other times, this was last year as well, we need to think about, do we want to have one session, or do we not need to meet face to face, and can we just leave that up to, I guess, the other calls that are going there? So I just want to start having that conversation, I think, next meeting. What else? No, I think that's it. I do have some actions on me where I need to write up some of what we discussed around AU bases criteria for meeting AFMM 2, but with the focus on publishing, that's just not what I've been working on in January. So I think that's, yeah, I doubt I'm going to get to that next week. So that's probably going to be like the one after. Is there anything else, Brett, on the calendar or governance or otherwise that we were thinking to go through the next meeting?
I don't think so.
Alrighty, then that's that.
Yep. Great.
All right, thank you. Then as a final reminder, the HL7 International January 2025 ballot is still open until end of this week. So anyone who wants to have ballot comments submitted, I think, Brett, you are one of the designated ballot submitters, right?
Indeed, yep. So there's
Yeah.
a short opportunity. I think the 20th, is the closing
Yeah.
date, 20th US time. So yeah.
If any one of you can have anything to log, approach Brett, that would be fine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you are to do that, I'd really appreciate it. You can raise the issue yourself, and I'll put a vote against it, would be my preferred option. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, yes, you can always raise issues anyway against anything. So yeah, please do so.
Yeah, but raising issue is sort of not as powerful as sort of ballot comments. Issues doesn't necessarily get addressed, sort of, or might get addressed just when the work group has time to deal with, but the ballot comment, and they have to resolve it.
Yep, and of course I would appreciate earlier rather than later in that.
Yep.
So they have to get the votes on before the ballot closes, otherwise they can't vote.
Sounds good.
Yep.
All right.
Yep, cool.
Anything else that we need to discuss? Otherwise, I will give you guys sort of about 20 minutes back of your day. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. We can adjourn this meeting, and the next meeting will be in a fortnight on January the 29th.
Thanks, Stephen.
All right. Bye for now.
Thanks, everyone.